All right, we're now streaming live on YouTube. So anything you say can and will be used against you probably by someone.
It usually is.
Right, usually is by somebody. So I'll give a few minutes for people to drop in. Make sure we have people actually listening to us. Make sure this is working. Pop open the chat. See if anybody's there yet. Not yet. Oh, let's a couple people show up. Make sure the chat's working. Should be interesting. And then, yeah, one watching. Cool. So Stuart London says it's good. So we are live.
We're live.
Working. Right. If there's any issues with audio or video, guys, just let us know in the chat. Doesn't seem like there is. I think we have a bit of a delay, maybe it sounds like. But other than that, not too bad. So we're going to be mostly talking about because we have two Canadians on tonight instead of just Shay. And actually, usually, I guess there's usually two Canadians, whether it's Shay and Daniel, or now it's going to be you and Daniel, so Dean and Daniel. And Shay's deworming orphans in Somalia or something, so he'll be back later. But he's not going to be here tonight.
That's the humanitarian.
Yeah, right. Just pure charity work. You know how he is. So it looks like everybody's here. So we're going to be talking a lot about the Canadian trucker strike, protest, whatever you want to call it. Like Dean was saying right before we went live, there's a ton of people spreading misinformation about it. Some of it's due to just not being able to get an accurate picture. Some of it's purposeful by a lot of the politicians and mainstream media. So for those of us who are in the United States, maybe other countries, why don't you give us a brief rundown of like what's really happening, at least what the intent is of the protest or demonstration?
They've started calling it, they call it the Freedom Convoy.
That's cool.
And it started out west in BC, and they started traveling east all the way to Ottawa.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many trucks originally started or even how many they ended up with, but it's in the thousands for sure.
I've seen
and
footage of like just literal, looks like miles of trucks.
It is. It's miles and miles of trucks, and a couple of them arrived in Ottawa late Friday, but the big majority of the convoy hit downtown Ottawa, surrounded our Parliament buildings, made all sorts of brouhaha as of Saturday morning. And the whole concept of it is to protest the mandates. We're talking the vaccine mandates, the mask mandates, the isolation mandates, everything. The premise is it isn't working. We've been going through this for 2 years. And every time they say, yeah, just one more vaccine or just one more lockdown and this will be over, it just comes back out. So it's not working. Something else has to be tried. And this is what it's all about. Some people claim it started just for the vaccine mandates, because the truckers in Canada, cross-border truckers, were mandated to show proof of vaccination to be able to cross the border. Right now in the wintertime, a lot of our produce, most of our produce, is coming up from the States. So if you start banning truckers from bringing it up, there's going to be supply shortages and stuff like that.
And I think that the U.S. was actually trying to do a similar thing with Mexican transportation, saying like if you're obviously in the United States, there is no federal vaccine requirement, and then that stuff was shut down when they tried to do it. But they can say that like Mexican truckers have to be vaccinated. So it's the same sort of thing. I don't know if that passed, but they were looking at trying to do the same thing, which is going to cause the same sort of problems.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it passed, because they've already done the same thing to Canada. Like Biden and Trudeau have both done the same thing. You can't go either way over the border as a trucker or as anybody, I think, right now, without a vaccine passport.
Yeah.
And the number one most ridiculous thing to me about that whole idea is this has been going on for 2 years. The truckers have been going back and forth across the border every day for 2 years. There has never been an outbreak among truckers.
Right.
There has never been any kind of issue with COVID and the cross-border truckers. So it's kind of like I keep saying Justin Trudeau is playing the worst game of whack-a-mole in history. He's just kind of blindly whacking down, and every once in a while he hits that gopher, but 99% of the time he absolutely misses. He did it with
And I
the
mean, and
guns.
that's, I mean, we've seen that all over the world of most of what they're doing. I mean, this is not surprising if you realize the politicians' main goal is not necessarily to solve the problem. That doesn't mean they're trying to make it worse or specifically don't want to solve the problem. This is not their main goal. Their main goal is to get reelected, to do whatever, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to appear like they're doing a good job, even if they don't really like fix the problem. A lot of times having the problem being there simmering actually gives them a lot more power and control than simply solving it. And they might just be stupid too and not be good at it. You know, that's always an element too.
Well, I mean, the biggest argument I think about this whole COVID thing is, does the vaccine work? And the answer is yes and no.
Right. It obviously
on a,
seems to make a difference in terms of, I mean, they're always changing their data and what they say, because they originally came out and said it was 100% effective against hospitalizations and death. We know that's no longer true, but it does seem to have an effect on like the death rate. Like you do seem to be less likely to die from COVID specifically, maybe not from other things, but it does seem to make it less likely that you'll die from COVID. But it doesn't seem to make a big difference on catching it and spreading it, which means there's no reason to force anyone to get it unless they're worried about dying from it, because it doesn't seem to be stopping it from being spread.
No, exactly. There's two narratives there. And the narrative number one is, if you take the vaccine, you're going to be less likely, much less likely, to need hospitalization or God forbid, even die from this disease.
Right.
That part of it does seem to be true. What percentage it protects you may be debatable, and that number may be changing from day to day anyway.
And how long it lasts, you know, if that wanes quicker than natural immunity also seems to be the case. But yeah, it does seem to have an
new
effect.
variants coming up and stuff like that. But on the narrative that if everybody gets vaccinated, we'll be able to get this pandemic over with and done.
Right.
That is not working.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 years of data to show.
And we have countries that have
countries
and small areas that have, you know, 90+% vaccination, full vaccination rates to prove that that's not the case.
Exactly. I mean, new variants are coming out all the time. I mean, Pfizer is still working on a vaccine designed to combat exactly the Omicron variant. And we're not going to even see that for a couple of more months. And already there's a subvariant, BA1 or BA2 or whatever it is that's coming out that we don't even know about. So
I mean, with this type of variants, just with coronaviruses, just like with influenzas, like they have to do yearly new vaccines for the flu, and they only have like 20% match rates, I've heard, in terms of like actually getting it right, what's going to be the dominant variant, and having the widespread vaccine be for the right one, the one that's actually effective. And so I don't see any reason why this type of virus isn't going to have the similar type of issues.
It absolutely is. But the problem with the coronavirus, the COVID virus, is that it changes much more rapidly. I mean, we can always predict, okay, flu season is going to start around this time. And, you know, we know pretty much when it starts, when it stops.
It's got a cycle to it, yeah.
They can try to guess what it is. They're not very good at it, but sometimes they get it. But the coronavirus, we don't know when it's going to mutate into something more dangerous or more contagious or more virulent or whatever. With no idea where it's going, and we have no idea when it's going to happen. But one thing's for sure, the more cases we have out there, the more chance it has of turning into something dangerous.
Right.
Or something less dangerous.
Right. Which is usually the way these viruses mutate. Doesn't mean there's anything preventing it from all of a sudden a more serious one coming out, but.
Yeah, or it could just drop off into nothing and become nothing worse than the common flu. Or the cold, then we're just going to have to live with it.
Right.
But anyway, I mean, back to the convoy.
Right.
Aside from the one that came out from out west, and like every province they went through on their way to Ontario, they got more truckers and more truckers and more truckers. And then one started from the maritime provinces moving west. One started from Quebec moving west. And I had even heard, but I haven't really seen it or confirmed it, I understand there was also a small convoy that came up from the US.
Cool.
And they're all just converging on Ottawa. And, you know, Justin Trudeau came up with the most incredibly well-timed a case of COVID exposure, he didn't get
requires
it.
him to be
Exposed to somebody.
isolation. Right?
It just happens to require me to run and hide under my bed the day before everyone gets here.
Right. Oh,
for
wow.
5 days. And I mean, the convoy organizers are saying 5 days.
Well, and that's the first. So that's the first.
Our trucks
bit
can sit
of,
there for months. We don't care.
Right. That's the first bit of misinformation, is that they kept trying to say this was like a small group or a fringe group. We know that it's thousands at least people.
Oh yeah, it is thousands. I mean, there's plenty of people online live streaming this.
Right.
And you can see it. There are thousands of trucks, and it's not just big rigs. People with pickup trucks, cars, campers, trailers, RV, you name it. Everybody just joined in on this thing. And it's become a massive thing in Ottawa. I mean, you can't move around downtown Ottawa from what I understand right now. You can't even get in there. There's just 2 parking lanes and 2 middle lanes going each way, 4 lanes wide of cars and trucks and that on the entire place. It's just jammed. You cannot move. There is no more room for vehicles.
I believe it. And is that was that that's the one thing I wasn't sure about. Was the goal simply to be like a demonstration, or was causing supply chain disruptions, sort of like a strike, part of the intention too, or is that just a side effect? Or do you even know, really?
I don't know that it would even be a side effect.
I mean, these truckers are all out not doing what they would normally be doing, delivering. So that's going to definitely have some tertiary effect. But I just didn't know if that was like, if a strike element was part of the plan, or if that's just going to be a probable side effect.
Well, I mean, I think the core truckers, it wouldn't make a difference anyway, because they can't do their runs to the US back and forth.
So they're stuck anyway.
You're like, well, they're like, well, why don't you just get back to work and stuff? Like, dude, I'd love to, but I can't, type of thing. I think the original thing was just the protest. It wasn't to cause disruptions or whatever. The government already did that with their mandates.
Exactly. So welcome, Dan. So you hopped in. Sorry, I messed up with the link there. I thought I'd sent it to you.
It's all good, bro.
So as you know, we're talking about the trucker protest. What have you been seeing from your side? It's because we were just talking about how we keep seeing, I don't know how it is, the difference between US and Canada. We're seeing a lot of stuff that that I'm hearing about it because I don't watch just mainstream news sources, but not getting a lot of information about what exactly is going on, just that this is happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So basically what's been going on is they came out with a mandate where, people have to be vaccinated to go across the border, and people are just, sorry, my camera's going fuzzy here, but
no worries.
People are getting upset and they just don't want to do it, which, kind of makes sense. Why mandate something? Like, what if this is such a safe thing, why does it have to be mandated?
Right.
But it's crazy. Now I'm currently in Victoria, BC right now, and I went down to a rally down there, and there was a huge lineup of trucks and cars and people just going to check out what was going on. So really, it's you're seeing a lot of people coming together, which is awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, definitely like it. And we were just talking about the same thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense for these restrictions, because I know here too in the US, they're making similar restrictions for cross-border travel, but then letting, immigrants come in with no restriction and no rule about, tens of thousands of people, and being like, oh, well, that's a different story. Like, it's not, if you're actually talking about, limiting the virus. And we know the vaccine doesn't actually stop you from getting it or spreading it anyway.
Right.
So it's total nonsense. But so you think, how long do you think this will last before either side backs down?
You know what? It's been going pretty strong for 2 years now. So really,
well, I just meant the trucker strike specifically. Or
this year? What? I hate to say it, man, but I think a week. I think it's going to last a week. And then people are going to start getting bored, and they're going to continue on to something new.
That's the danger, is that, I mean, especially if, like you were saying, that Dean, that these guys may have been not out of work, but not been able to do the normal work. how long can you really keep that up? You know, you're talking about having to eat there, your truck, you have to gas for it, you're not doing any work. Hopefully we'll see how many people there, and it'll cause such an obvious disturbance for the people that are in and around Ottawa that they'll, because we've already seen other countries start to, like UK and everything, are dropping a lot of these restrictions. So hopefully they'll just kind of use that as an excuse, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think depending on how well that GoFundMe page that they brought up, I believe last time I looked, it was over $5 million.
Oh shit! I didn't know about that. I'll have to try and find a link and throw it in the description after this. I'm assuming that's to support the truckers.
They would support the truckers. Then they tried to get politicians tried to get their hands in it and say there was a racist convoy, and
So predictable.
Typical, man. I think the government's a little jealous that these truckers were able to raise millions of dollars
overnight.
Overnight, and then all of a sudden it's like, they're a bunch of racists and extremists and far right. It's out of control. But I think maybe when the money runs out, if it runs out, that's when guys will just say, okay, well, obviously this isn't working. And it was just like in Alberta when we all drove up to Ottawa because of we're getting the Saudi gas.
Yeah, someone says, David McGregor says they have a $9 million war chest. They announced they have enough funds for 2 to 4 years to park. That would be a nice.
All right. Well, 2 to 4 years then is my prediction.
Yeah. I actually caught an interview today from the organizers. I'm not sure if they gave it today or yesterday or when it was given, but I caught it today. And at that point, they had said that they were somewhere around the 8 million mark on the GoFundMe.
That's awesome.
And there was a whole thing about the GoFundMe too that spread around that, GoFundMe had shut them down because of shady dealings and this and that. And apparently there was a glitch for about 45 minutes. The organizers got on the phone with GoFundMe. They had a little chit chat and everything's clear and good to go now.
Good.
So
that's good to hear.
Yeah, somewhere $5, $8, $9 million to keep these guys in fuel. And I don't know how much fuel is going to need to just idle your truck.
Yeah.
Things running or stuff to park. But also, to cover the cost of the fuel to get there, because a cross-country trek is not, it's not nothing.
Not for a big truck too, yeah.
Well, no, especially with Trudeau's carbon taxes coming into play too, which just bumped us again. But I mean, money-wise, they can sit there, I think, for quite a long time. Now, how long is the government going to put up with them sitting there
before they just arrest people or something?
Before they just start calling in heavy rescue tow trucks,
dragging them out of it,
and start dragging them out. And I think something like that, it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible that something like that could happen within the next 2 days, Monday or Tuesday, I think.
Okay. Now, my question is, as an American, I don't get a sense, like we always hear about what Trudeau's done, what Trudeau's said, but it's hard to get a sense of how much overall the government is like either with his views versus, is it just him that's like, oh, these are unacceptable views, or is that pretty much a status quo across the entire government in the way that these protests are viewed by the government and Trudeau?
Well, it's interesting because it's split right down the middle, as usual, left versus right. The left has come out, no, this is unacceptable, and everything else. And Jagmeet Singh, our ultra super leftist, stuck his foot in his mouth and called them all racists or something like that recently. The right is trying. You have Mr. Super Right, Maxime Bernier. The organizers didn't even want to really hear from him. And he came out, he met them, and he said, I want to get up on one of your stages in front of the counters. And they went, nope, this is nonpartisan. It's not about, one side or the other. We're not having any politicians speak to us. Our conservative leader, Aaron O'Toole, did his basic type of thing. I mean, he let so many other MPs weigh in on this before he did. He's the leader of the party. So a lot of people are saying his days are quite shortly numbered as leader of the Conservatives.
Interesting. Someone says, we have a comment said there's not enough tow trucks in Ontario to tow them. And that's probably literally true, but it's just like with the IRS here that they can't audit everyone. They don't have to. If they start towing the first person impounding their truck, arresting them, how many people are just going to sit there waiting for their turn to get impounded or towed? It's going to take some balls or to just sit there and let them know that they're coming to you next.
Yeah, there may not be enough tow trucks in Ontario, but I don't know. I've never been in the military. Does the military have heavy tow trucks?
Yeah, they have like wreckers and stuff that they could definitely get. I'm assuming the Canadian military is the exact same stuff.
Sure, that's exactly how that's going to work.
Right. And like I said, they don't have to. They don't have to get everybody. If they just start randomly towing and impounding people's livelihoods and stuff, like not many people are going to be able to stay there and just wait.
Yeah,
and hope that they're not next.
I mean, from what I saw, I would have to say 50% of the vehicles that are in downtown Ottawa right now are not long distance trucks. They're personal vehicles. They're people in their cars, in their pickup trucks.
Oh, really? Okay. Just big
stuff
trucks.
like that. So
yeah,
it's one thing. Oh, I'm going to take your truck. Well, I can't work with it anyway. Have fun.
Yeah. But if it's your daily driver,
we'll sort it out later. But if this is my only freaking way back to Alberta or Saskatchewan or BC is my station wagon, you know what? Yeah, very quickly people are going to go about FaceTime to get out of here.
Okay. And Dan, are you expecting to see like supply chain disruptions from this, or like are you thinking these are people mostly who have been unable to work because of these restrictions anyway, so it shouldn't make too much of a difference?
It was funny before they even took off to do this. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, there's only 15% of truckers doing it," and
yeah.
I've seen some videos, man. There's thousands upon thousands of trucks. And I'm thinking, well, even if, say there's 10,000 trucks and they're all delivering food to different locations around, I think we're going to start seeing some food disruptions, just like when COVID was, when the lockdowns were happening and, we couldn't get chicken fingers or we couldn't get milk or what have you. But
I have had trouble with finding chicken wings in the store. They're like it's like 50-50. Like it's weird because I don't know how it is in Canada in general, but we have people all over the US sending pictures of grocery stores with weird outages. It hasn't really struck my local area very badly at all. Definitely a noticeable difference than just any other years past, but nothing major with the exception of a few things. And chicken wings is one of those. It's like half the time there's none there. I don't know what it is.
It's just like everything, like the shortages that we're seeing now with the, I tried to get a fridge a few months back and it took sorry, we'll order it and hopefully it comes in. But I
had a chest freezer. It took me like 3 or 4 months to get a few months ago.
It's crazy. So, okay, so say they're there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or what have you. Well, that's 2 or 3 weeks of them not delivering the stuff that they normally would. And then it's going to be another 3 to 4 weeks of playing catch up.
Right.
So, and again, you know what? All the power to them. I think they should, if they can be there for 2 years and then, be there for 2 years.
Ideally, it wouldn't take, the government would basically buckle first within a matter of days or weeks. That's the best case scenario. I don't know how likely that is compared to the other scenarios, but that would be the best case scenario. Is it successful?
If our government hasn't buckled now since this started, they're in it for the long haul. I think they're about as stubborn as we are. So,
oh, you mean the government? You mean? Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. The government's going to be stubborn, just like we're going to be stubborn, and it's they're going to just keep going. And you know what? They're going to get to the point where if you're not going to listen to us, we're going to do more restrictions. We're going to take more things away from you. They're like the kids in the playground that if they don't get their way, then they take the ball and run.
Yeah, kick over the sandcastle, grab the ball, and go home.
Yeah, exactly. It's unfortunately something catastrophic has to happen.
One way or the other.
Any way you want it, but that's the only way things are going to change.
Yeah, and Dean, we were talking about this before the show, how Trudeau specifically has come out with some pretty aggressive rhetoric about these people having unacceptable views and their fringe extremists, even racist, which obviously is weird because it has nothing to do with any particular demographic. But so what do you think that they're willing to do, or if they don't decide to, actually meet the people's demands? Can you hear me?
I got you.
Oh, no, I know. Can Dean hear? Oh, yeah, you're on delay.
That's a great question. I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, if it just becomes one big giant Mexican standoff,
right?
and no one's going to blink. Heck, you never know. Maybe the government will fall. It's a minority government right now. Maybe things could happen in Parliament that the rest of the parties get together and say, yeah, no, this is going to be a confidence issue, or your next budget we're just not going to approve, and we're going to force an election.
Right.
That's one thing that could happen. I personally think that eventually Justin Trudeau is going to face enough pressure from the truckers and from opposition to make a concession on the vaccine passport for truckers. Maybe
he'll try to
compartmentalize rapid tests.
Yeah.
I'll say, all right, if you're not vaccinated, then 15-minute rapid test at the border every time you cross. Something like that to break it. And that may be enough to get the truckers to move, or some of them. It may not be. I don't know which way this is going to go. It's going to get interesting. If nobody really wants to move, I honestly feel the government is going to make a move to clear those truckers out eventually.
I assume they would have to. I mean, that's just the way governments work. They're never just going to be like, oh, well, you got us. You know what I mean? They're going to resort to some kind of force at some point if they decide they don't want to deal with negotiations.
I mean, right now, the propaganda machine is rolling hard and fast, trying to get public opinion on the side of the government. They've come out with all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's fringe groups in there, I'm sure. Any kind of huge protest like this, you're going to have small groups of shit disturbers.
Right.
Like the ones that are carrying the Nazi flag.
Yeah, a lot of those are actual, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but we see FBI create these groups in an attempt to bust them. They'll actually make the scandal and then be like, we stopped it. And I'm sure that stuff's happening over there too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's shit disturbing groups in there that are going, oh, great excuse. There's too many people. They'll never figure us out. This and that. I mean, there's all sorts of groups like that. You got the neo-Nazis that are there. We got the conspiracy theorists that are there. People talking about, it's a 5G thing with the vaccine and stuff like that. Let's not also forget, guaranteed, CSIS is also there. There are people in CSIS. That's the CIA for
okay, gotcha. Yeah. That's what I was talking
that's our
about.
secret.
Yeah, right. So like FBI, CIA,
is definitely there.
Absolutely, they have people undercover. Just if nothing else, ostensibly just to scope it out, but they have their own agendas too. So they're going to be working in whatever direction they want to see.
Didn't Quebec go back on its when they said all the nurses have to be vaccinated? Then all of a sudden the nurses are like, nope, not doing it. So they fired all these nurses, and then all of a sudden they were like, holy crap,
we're understaffed.
Hospitals
exactly. Yeah. Well, it was healthcare workers across the board, all of them, whether orderlies, nurses, doctors, cleaning staff, kitchen staff, file clerks, you name it. If you were in the healthcare network, you were going to have to be vaccinated or you were going to lose your job. And they stood firm. The ones that didn't want it said, no, I don't want it. You can fire me if you want, but I'm not doing it. And it came down really to the 11th hour. It was like the day before they were all supposed to be let go that, our premier, Francois Legault, said, you know what, maybe somebody that might have COVID than nobody at all to take care of people. Like,
right.
Okay. And he did back down on that.
Yeah, that's good.
He really did.
So maybe that's what's going to happen here. These guys are going to hang out there. Now, I believe Trudeau's Tofino trip will be cut short probably Wednesday. That's when his self-isolation's over with. He'll have to come back to work. And if those guys are still there, maybe this might be the dumpster fire that he will come in and save the day saying, yes, of course, I'm not going to make these people do what they have to do. And please get back to work. And, I'm the hero now all of a sudden. And,
Right.
some of the BS that he's going to try to.
Maybe, but I guarantee you he's not going to walk onto the Parliament Hill and do it there. He'll do it through Zoom. No. He'll do it through Zoom. He's not going to go face these people.
Yeah, no, he'll just put out some release or something and be like, I figured it out. This is what we need to do," kind of thing. And yeah, but I mean, like I said, that's probably the best case scenario. Is he'll try to take some kind of credit for fixing the problem by giving some half a session, like you were saying, like making me just test instead of vaccine, which hopefully they'll get more than that out of it. But if anything is better than nothing, I guess.
But then it sucks for everybody else that,
right.
got the vaccine. Like I had to get double vaccinated for my job. And I am seeing some adverse effects from it, increased migraines and sometimes just, other stuff going on. And you're just like, you go to the doctor and he's like, "Oh no, don't worry, that's normal. Everything will sort itself out after you get your booster." I'm like, you know what?
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself.
And they know this because of all the
I got a vaccine and I don't feel well. Take another one. That'll work for sure.
One that's that was never around before, so they know how it works. When you get a booster, like the booster that didn't even exist a year ago, right? You know how that works,
and it doesn't work. We got a guy at work here who who got COVID, and he was really sick from COVID, and he had his double shots.
Yeah, I mean, like me and Dean were talking about earlier. It does, like they keep changing the story, so who knows, it may change again. But it does appear that the vaccines do make it less likely that you'll get hospitalized or die. There might be other, all-cause mortality might be worse, whatever. But it does appear that there's some effect on COVID mortality and or overall COVID mortality. But you still get it. Still spread it. A lot of people seem to be getting even more often sometimes. Who knows? Certain variants, but
hence why the numbers are so high now.
Right. Yeah, you've seen countries all over. They should be, plummeting after widespread vaccinations. And a lot of the cases spike in some of these, like Israel and other places. It's really weird.
We've got so many cases up here. We stopped counting weeks ago. We did. We're not even going to count the cases anymore. We're not even going to test the general public anymore.
Right.
We just, and I'm like, they lost it. They really let it get out of control. They have absolutely no idea. I think about a week ago here in Quebec, they estimated we were somewhere at around 58 to 60,000 cases a day.
And what's the population?
7.5 million in the province.
Yeah. So it's like 1% a day or something like that?
Yeah, well, whatever. But I mean, then everyone started.
But every day,
the other number, the only other number that we had was hospitalizations.
Right.
And we hit somewhere around the 4,000 people in the hospital on any given day.
Like a running average, yeah.
Yeah, and then it came out. Somebody let it slip, and I don't know who or how, but I thank them for this. That 40% of our hospitalizations were not due to COVID.
Right.
Yes, they had COVID. They didn't go to the hospital because of COVID. Yeah. They slipped while they were shoveling snow, broken arm, twisted a back. I had a heart attack. I did whatever. Oh, okay. Well, while you're here, we'll test you. Oh God, you had COVID. And I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't know. Type of thing. So is it really, it's obviously it's not as bad as they're saying, like, oh my God, it's because of all these people with COVID that it's, well, no, it's not, because you're inflating the numbers so much.
Right. And we've even seen a lot
the
of
government was caught. They had no choice but to say,
and they're doing massive revisions now to say, like, the US and especially UK said, like, oh, all these numbers of COVID deaths were with COVID. They had average of like 4 or more serious comorbidities. The actual number of people who died of COVID was like 25% of the number that they've been throwing around for years. 25%. So it's like,
And
Yeah,
weren't they all in
there's-
their 80s?
There's a huge
Yeah, the
difference.
average age of death was like over the average age of life expectancy, and then like
Yeah.
four comorbidities. Most of them was just with COVID, and it's just all nonsense. And then now that they see, I mean, it's good that I feel like the tide is turning in terms of how this stuff is perceived in general, but they're still going to be using it. Now they're acting like they were saying this stuff all along. They're still trying to. For anyone who cares, it's 1720 Rams with 146 to go.
Like Dodge Ram?
No, like LA Rams.
I'm fucking with you.
It's not a hockey game. Sorry.
Yeah, where?
Rams,
mean
what
your
hockey team do they
NFL,
play?
Although I was talking with a friend, and it's a San Francisco team and an LA team playing right now. So we were like, we'd just be just as happy if a sinkhole opened up under the entire stadium. Two California teams.
So I guess let's go back to see what we were talking about before. If this lasts, say this thing lasts in Canada for another week,
Right.
and like Dean was saying, yeah, they might call the military in, but again, if they do that, it's going to be just like what was it, 1976 when the first Trudeau called in the War Measures Act?
Yeah, anytime there's
70
any
70
action
72,
against the public, there's always a risk of it turning public turning against them for being heavy-handed, regardless of what the actual protest issue is. If you come in and start cracking skulls with nightsticks, like it just doesn't look good. So luckily they're only gonna do that if they feel like that's their only option for ending it, or they just go overboard.
Well, I mean, in defense of Trudeau Sr., our current prime minister's father, who was also prime minister in the 70s, back in 72, like his mentor. Stepfather. Yeah, stepfather. In his defense, and there isn't much to defend him with, but in his defense, what was going on in Quebec at that point was a massive separatist movement.
Okay.
And these separatists were literally planting bombs in mailboxes on the streets. So people are walking around, the streets of their city, going to work, going along their business, and boom, a mailbox beside them would blow up. Yeah. So I can understand calling in the military and calming some things down and maybe cracking some separatists.
Right, when there's actual explosions going off, that's one thing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the closest this has gotten to is a few fireworks over Parliament. Yeah,
and it's so kind of disgusting and revealing to see how certain factions of the government treat protests and civil disobedience when it's their people versus how they talk about it when it's someone that disagrees with them. It's extremists, it's people that like insurrections, they call it here in the US, when it's literally this exact, and then they'll call burning down buildings peaceful protests when it's their political allies. It's just like, can't be more obvious.
I just want to answer a question here from Sane Canadian. Yes, it's a PPCLI hat. I was in the 1st Battalion PPCLI many moons ago, from 98 to 2008.
Cool. Does Canada do the thank you for your service thing?
Oh,
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Thank you, Dan, for your
Thank
service.
me for my service.
Yeah, and then we joke about it all the time. About,
right.
It gets pretty dark after.
Right, of course.
But
I always wondered what to say to that, because saying like thanks back seems weird. Like, thank you for your service. Thanks. Saying you're welcome kind of seems like haughty. Like, thank you for your service. You're welcome, bro. Like, you're welcome for those freedoms. So I just started saying my pleasure. I feel like that's not too great. Like, it was my pleasure.
I feel like that's when I was in, it was
even though it was sucked.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, that works too. I appreciate the support.
You're gonna buy me? Where's my breakfast?
Yeah, exactly. Where's my Tim Hortons? Yeah. That has happened to me before. I was eating in uniform and people would come and like try to buy food, and I was like, oh, come on. Nice.
Yeah, it was. You know what? It was a good gesture. It was never like that in the early '90s, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through ROTC 2002. So I didn't get to deal with the early 90s stuff. So especially in the US, it was pretty, I mean, this was all post 9/11. So the attitudes toward the military were very positive for the whole time I was in.
Yeah, I when I first joined it, I started off in the part-time military, so it was
Yeah, I was in the reserves for the
reserves.
National
So
Guard.
it was the early '90s, man. They they didn't really like the military back then. It was all Afghanistan, really.
Right,
It's,
right.
it was crazy, but yeah, it's good to see that they finally started. Canada finally started to get some sort of patriotic happiness for Canadian forces soldiers, but before that it was pretty grim.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's funny how that stuff changes. Nowadays in the American military, they'd probably come up and be like, "Here's some money for your sex change operation that all you folks are having."
Oh, geez, that will be a different
Different video.
different weekend show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like
They saw some. Yeah, I showed some picture of like all these high generals and admirals in the U.S. military, and there was like 4 frumpy old women, 1 like trans dude, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, we're never winning any more wars, that's for sure.
Well, if you told them that the enemy was transphobic, then
Right, then maybe we'll get somewhere, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
they'll at least lose their Twitter account.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know about beating them, but yeah. Jeez.
Oh, it's crazy. You know what? Sorry, I would type this into Sane Canadian, but unfortunately, I for some reason I can't find my login number. So I was a Red Devil, A company, 1st Battalion. Last name's Gray Owen. Probably heard like some stupid stories or whatever, but yeah, it's
Cool
just
deal.
to answer your question there.
Cool deal.
Yeah, cool deal.
So we
I've
had a
never
couple
built-
questions that Chase said someone had emailed him.
Yes.
He's not here tonight. Let me see if I can find that. First one is from Roxy. I've been a longtime member of your group, and I think this was through his Ontario Prepper Network. We met a few years ago. I'm wondering about your opinion. So it's not going to be Chay's opinion, obviously, but we can cover the question. My ex is pushing for us to withdraw cash from the bank and purchase silver in preparation for a crash of the Canadian dollar. He's an investment and insurance advisor working with a company that provides the service sending rolls of silver coins. I'd value your opinion about this. I guess, Dean, we'll start with you. Do you have any strong opinions about what to do with cash right now, specifically for Canadians?
Strong opinions?
Or any
No,
opinions
not
for that
really.
matter?
I mean, if you're talking about pulling out money to buy silver, okay.
Yeah.
Precious metals generally increase in value over time. Silver usually does that, but very slowly. It's not going to, $100 worth of silver is not going to be worth 110 tomorrow, 121 the day after, and so on and so forth. Silver is very slow. They can also take a nosedive.
Right.
A few years ago, somebody I knew had a roll of silver coins that they wanted to sell, and I told them, hold on to them, because right now the face value on those coins is higher than the actual silver value. So don't. And watch how much you do that with. Don't pull out all your money and buy silver bars. And for God's sakes, don't do what somebody I know did and pull all your money out and put it into silver jewelry, because that stuff's worth absolute garbage when you try to sell it.
Right.
So I mean, but if you want to take some of your savings and put it into silver bars, my opinion is by all means do so. It should over time generally increase in value. As far as prepper and bartering and stuff like that, I'm not a huge fan of the idea that people are going to be trading their food and their bullets for silver bars.
Right.
I'm really not. I think it's going to be more tangible goods, useful goods that people are going to be trading back and forth with, if ever the world comes to that.
Makes sense.
If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I got this huge silver bar. It's this big, this huge silver bar. Look at it. It's worth $1 million when I bought it. I want to buy, give you that for in exchange for a 5-gallon bucket of food." What am I gonna?
Depends on the situation, I guess.
On that silver bar. I'm just not chewing on that silver bar, and unless the government's going to come back up and the economy is going to come back up in the next year
That's
or
always the
so,
risk.
it's absolutely flipping useless to me, other than melting down to make bullets to shoot vampires. So,
right on. Dan, what do you think about silver, and specifically with relation to the Canadian dollar?
So yeah, I didn't pull out all my savings. So basically, what I do is every time I get paid, I'll go take $400 and buy whatever silver rounds I can to get. Now, the reason why I was getting them, I also got a 100-ounce silver bar just because I got a really good deal on it. And yeah, you're not going to be able to go to the grocery store and say, yeah, here's 5 silver rounds for, $200 worth of groceries. The way I got it is, if it has ever come down to it where, say, there's a military occupation in your area and you have to get from point A to point B, a bunch of silver to have someone look the other way would work quite well. Vice,
Yeah.
If it's we'll say if there's a military there, well, trading food isn't going to work because they have food. Trading,
and we've seen that literally come into play in like North Korea, in the Cambodian genocide. That's how people would get out into Thailand and stuff. They use gold to cross borders and stuff.
That's right. So, and that would be a perfect way to use it. Now, pull out all your savings and your daughter's education fund, probably not a good idea, because eventually this is going to all right itself. Probably not right away, but to the point where you're spending all your money, and then who knows, silver could take a nosedive, in a year's time. Like, I'm thinking the amount of silver I bought is probably worth what I paid for it now. But who knows? It might go down. It might go up.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of silvers. Oh, you guys watching my channel probably know I've got some right behind me, this big silver pirate bullion and stuff, which is awesome. I agree with you guys that I don't foresee go to the store with a bar of silver thing really playing out in most scenarios. But I'd also think that most Western fiat currencies are going to have a high chance of getting absolutely obliterated over the next 5 to 10 years or whatever. So leaving that stuff in the bank probably isn't the best bet. I think that at least pulling it out of the bank and physically holding the cash is the step that you should absolutely at least do that, because I think in any of these disaster scenarios, there is usually an initial period, as if there's power outages, whatever, that we're physically having the cash could be beneficial. I certainly think it's great to have silver, but I think like you guys have mentioned, your time, like the time probably makes a big difference. Like, are you looking to do something with this money within the next 6 months? Then I probably wouldn't bother dumping it into silver. You got to pay for premiums on buying and selling it. You got to worry about the spot price. But if you're just planning on having this money sitting there for 5 years and you're worried about the dollar, I would put it into something else other than just the currency. Silver and gold are probably a solid place, in my opinion. So
yeah,
cool deal. So we got about 10 minutes. We got 1 or 2 more questions. If you guys got anything in the chat, we can cover everything, but let me get this other one that Che had emailed me. April says, we live in Ontario. I've tried to search how to safely store gas in metal drums. A lot of videos and sites I've seen are for climates not like Ontario. I would like to know how any preppers store their drums. I know it could be a huge fine or disaster in properly storing it. As gas, it's flammable, not just a liquid. It can get too hot or too cold. I want to be able to access it easily, so I prefer not to put it into the ground. Our power already went out for an entire 7 days. Thankfully, I had a lot of gas stored in gas cans, but I just kept thinking in the event it was longer, everyone would have rushed to the gas station and started hoarding gas, which I don't want to be in that position. I want to be self-sufficient. So I'll talk about this one real quick. I haven't ever stored large amounts of gas, but I always keep some gas on hand. Your issues, other than any legal restrictions, which I'm not going to bother trying to cover because it depends on your area, but usually there's a limit as to if you have over a certain amount, there's certain rules about how you should store it. But beyond legal restrictions, you just got to worry about the gas lasting and the gas getting contaminated or getting basically blown up. So if you stabilize it with a fuel stabilizer, that usually gives you 6 months to 2 years, depending on the ethanol content and everything of the gas. Storage, you just want to keep it away from anything that could ignite it, heat it up. I don't know I don't have to deal with this here, but is there a real risk of gas? Yeah, I know gas can freeze if it gets to like 75 degrees below zero or something, but does that ruin the gas? I don't even know. Do you guys have any experience with that?
You know, I'm the same way with you, man. I normally store about maybe 2 or 3 jerry
Just
cans
cans.
of
Yeah.
fuel at a time. And the only reason I do that is just because I do have a generator. Luckily, I've never had to pull it out,
Mhm.
but you know, every 6 months, sometimes 3 months, I'll use the gas, fill it up again, store it again. So I imagine if it's a bad scenario where you're going to need, you know, a few hundred gallons of fuel, but then you got to look at the other aspect of things. What if you have to leave your area and,
Right.
you know, a couple barrels of fuel, that's going to be heavy.
You definitely want to also
you're,
have
you're not going to
cans.
move that in a hurry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
even if
exactly.
you
You're not
even
gonna
if you
be-
have a big barrel or a cistern, you want to have a way to put it into some kind of trailer or individual cans you can take with you. Because yeah, like Dean was saying, you can't unless you have like a fuel pod, water buffalo type trailer that you can literally just fill with gas. You're not moving it.
Right.
Yeah,
But
and there's transfer pumps and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm also in the camp of the jerry can. I use the commercial 25 liter or 5 gallon cans.
You guys still have the good
from
ones,
Princess Auto.
the Scepter fuel cans. For some reason, they made weird restrictions here
Yeah.
on fuel cans for the type that, like the lids and stuff. So we no longer can really buy the big plastic solid like military jerry cans for fuel. And
Yeah, no, I use the typical the Princess Auto Scepter cans. I've got I think about 10 or 12 of them, and usually once a year, what I will do in the summer is I will empty everything into my vehicles. I mean, my Dodge Ram alone takes 140 liters from empty.
my Bronco
So
has
I
a
have
32-gallon
absolutely
tank.
here we go, no problem. Dump it right in, throw them all in the back of my truck, and I go visit some friends in Ontario because gas is cheaper there, and pick up some stabilizer, into the cans it goes, and refill them, put them back in storage.
Good point.
I have no idea how gas would even react with a metal can.
I mean, yeah,
sitting
metal's
for any
fine.
length of time.
It seems as long as it's
should
not a
be
can that's going to
fine.
rust. I mean, the metal jerry cans are usually have no issue with that if it's a good one, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the issues with it freezing. If that's real, I would tell this person that see how much you really need and why. And if you are super heavily reliant on fuel to where you really think you're going to need hundreds of gallons over a period of months or something, I would try to start replacing some of those processes with other things that you can do without gasoline. If it's an electric generator, try solar, wind, or something else. If it's transportation, not too many other options there for real transportation. But if it's heating, try to have wood or propane or whatever. But
yeah, no, exactly. I don't know. My gas cans are stored in a steel garden shed outside, 12 months of the year. It's minus 40 here is a regularity every year. We're going to get it at least for a few days every winter.
Right.
And I've never had gas that appears to go bad because of freezing. I mean, I throw it in my vehicles, I start it, it runs. That's it.
Right.
That's all I can say about it. But I use stabilizer in the cans, and I like the cans because they are portable. If I do have to bug out, I can very quickly take a dozen gas cans, throw them in the back of my Dodge Ram, and be gone.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion too. Just get 10 gas cans if you want. They're easier to move. They're easier to fill. You don't have to get a truck out to your place. You can move them into somewhere where you can even, because the temps we're talking about to freeze gas, if you're worried about it, put a light bulb, shining on your gas cans. Just keeping it a few degrees warmer than, the outside air would probably be enough to prevent it from freezing.
Go get one of those big industrial, like 150 watt incandescent light bulbs, and away you go.
Yep. And I don't think it would be an issue.
And you can get those jerry cans at Costco like that. I went to Princess Auto, got 2. It was $50. I went to Costco to buy some other stuff, and they had a bundle of 2 for $27. Oh
Nice.
boy, was I
Bingo.
upset!
Yeah.
Nice. Right on. All right, we're
Dan's like my wife.
Sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. We SPQ Cincinnati has a super chat. Says, what's the most tradable commodity in a crisis and keeps its value in normie times? I think it depends mostly on the crisis. I mean, whatever people are, if you're dying of an infection, Antibiotics are maybe what you need the most. Normally, based on this historical stuff, it seems to be all the usual stuff: food, clean water, ways to start fire, fuels, and then the vices always seem to do well: cigarettes, alcohol, stuff like that. So I think ammo, obviously, and I think any of those are going to do super well in a crisis. I think ammo is probably the leader for doing super well in a crisis and also maintaining value. Guns and ammos are basically probably beating the market at this point in terms of how quickly the prices are going up.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I would have to chime in and say food, freeze-dried food.
Yeah.
Long shelf life. Everybody needs it. A lot of people won't have it.
Exactly. And you can, as long as it's within its expiration date, you could theoretically sell it during good times, probably for what you paid for it, until you get really close to the expiration date. So it probably should hold this. And same with liquor, any sort of gear that's quality preparedness gear, tools, stuff like that, all seems to do pretty well in good times or bad. So, and gold and silver, I think usually, like we were saying, it depends on the crisis as to if people are going to care or not. If it's a full blown shit, the fan, it's unlikely people are going to give a shit about metal. But if it's a economic collapse, we've seen that becomes an important way to bypass the dying currencies and stuff.
I do like Dan's idea though of greasing palms with silver. That's something I hadn't thought of. And
gold too, specifically.
It's a smart idea.
The problem with silver is that it takes a lot to hold, or like weight, like literally a lot of metal to have a serious dollar amount. Because even at like $100 an ounce or something, this big, where was it? This big chunk of metal right here, which is 15 ounces. So that'd be $1,500. That's a decent amount of money, but that's heavy. A gold ounce is tiny, and it would be if silver was $100 an ounce, that would probably be 10,000. So silver is good for smaller amounts. If you had to give someone a serious amount of money, it takes a lot of silver to carry it around. Yeah,
but I mean, it also depends what you're greasing a palm for. Right. If you're trying to get across a checkpoint without somebody noticing, maybe 100 or 200 worth of silver will do the trick. Exactly. If you're trying to bribe the security guy at the front gate of a nuclear fallout shelter when the bombs are coming
then
down,
you might need more.
Bring then out you go that back big hunk of gold. You want to make sure you get in there.
Or go back to the the ammo at that point.
Yeah.
Speaking of ammo, someone asked me a question here in the chat. Where was it? Oh, someone said, Eric, I missed it. I lost it. Oh, man, this chat moved. I thought I had it. Someone said, what was my go-to 5.56 round, I think. I preference is usually just the M855 ball, green tip, the armor piercing one, but I don't have a huge preference. Most of that stuff will perform.
Rub it in for us Canadian guys.
Oh, speaking of,
to get ball ammo for
I got this in honor. I got this recently in honor of Trudeau. As a birthday present to myself and him. This is
hold on a second.
Yeah, CMMG Banshee 300 10-inch barrel. I wanted this is according to our stupid ATF. This is legally a pistol, not a rifle. This is not a stock. It's a brace, so I could conceal carry this if I need to. So what do you got there? Oh, nice. I like it.
Jeez, Dan, that's the fast. That was fast at unlocking that safe, boy.
Yeah, he's quick.
It's palm print.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I'm staying in a hotel up at work here. But I picked that up at a Victory Ridge Sports. It's called a Maverick. It's 308. It's quite a good piece of kit. And they gave me not gave me, but I got a Vortex sight on it. It's
I got this red dot, the Hollow Sun that I haven't thrown on there yet, because I actually ordered that. CMMG is way back ordered, and I ordered that about 6 months ago and just got it.
But the thing that's different with this, it's not a it's a pullback.
Yeah.
So basically, there's no gas tube. It's one shot fire.
Okay.
The only difference, it's not like a bolt action rifle. It's just a straight pullback, and it works perfect.
That's
cool.
One mean looking rifle. I'm surprised Trudeau didn't ban that one.
Well,
I mean, it's got a plastic stock and everything. I mean,
someone's spamming our chat here.
Oh yeah, good times.
Trying to block them, but I'm not the most best moderator. But we're about to cut off anyway. But speaking of ammo, someone had just recently posted something on Twitter where they were like, why is a bullet more cheaper than toilet paper? And like, first of all, that's a bizarre comparison because it's meaningless. Like, why does that matter? But second of all, I'm like, I don't know where you're buying. You either got a great hookup on ammo or you're buying some, top line toilet paper, or you're not shooting anything cool for that matter. Because he's definitely not out there shooting like 338 Lapua or anything like that. Because I could wait for a whole quarter, like the first quarter 2022 for like one round of 50 BMG or something like that.
Yeah, crazy.
So yeah, we're getting attacked by bots or something in the chat.
I love it, man. You know you're doing a good job when you've upset somebody so bad that they have to spam your chat. Hey, Mick Frosty, say hello to your mother for me.
Right.
She was awesome last night. Your dad sucked, but your mother made up for it.
Yeah, right.
You sound like Shorzy from Letterkenny.
Yeah.
But you guys got any last things you want to put out there to the people about the truckers? Anything?
No, I'm glad they're doing it, and I hope with a little bit of luck they succeed their what they're trying to do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years, truckers have been put through so much in this country with lockdowns and stuff along their routes. Restaurants are closing. Even the rest stops where they stop to take a leak and sleep the night, the restrooms have been locked up and closed for them. They can't go through drive-throughs of those big rigs. They've been buggered left, right, and center for the past 2 years. They're fed up now. I understand that. And I actually hope this does something. I mean, I'm totally in solidarity with them. I hope it gets something done. And if I was able to, I would be right there in Ottawa with you guys. I'm just a couple of hours away. Keep it up. I mean, and get the word out. The organizers have really got to start getting out there and getting the true word of what they're doing and who's doing what out there. And not let the mainstream media take over their narrative. I think that's the most important thing happening right now. The mainstream media is taking over their narrative and telling their side of the story. They got to get out there, let it be known what they're there for and why. And good luck to y'all, and God bless, because somebody had to finally do it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
agree. Cool deal. Any last words, Dan?
No, I'm good, brother.
Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. I don't know exactly when we'll be doing the next one. I'm doing a lot of traveling this month, and I don't know the exact, or February actually, don't know the exact dates, but at least one of these Sundays. So I'll get with you guys offline later, and we'll figure it out. Sure. And then I'll have Che update the website. So thanks for watching, as always, guys.